At 22 years old, when most people were still trying to figure out who they were, she stood alone in a small rented apartment in Columbus, Ohio, holding a set of keys that proved everyone wrong. These were not just keys to a door, but to a life rebuilt from doubt, whispered insults, and nights where hope felt thinner than breath itself. They had laughed when she said she would make it. They had shaken their heads when she refused to quit, and yet here she was, heart racing, hands trembling, realizing that the impossible had quietly become real. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of never giving up even when the world doubts you, take a moment right now to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps these stories reach hearts that may be breaking in silence. Her name was Hannah Mercer, and her story did not begin with privilege or applause. It began in a cramped house on the outskirts of Dayton, where walls carried the echoes of arguments and unpaid bills. She grew up watching her mother juggle 2 jobs and still come home exhausted, her hands cracked from cleaning work that never seemed to lift them out of survival mode. Her father had left early, leaving behind questions that never found answers, and a quiet ache that followed Hannah into adulthood. From a young age, she learned that dreams were dangerous things to admit out loud, because people were quick to remind her of what she did not have. At school, she was the girl who stayed late in the library, not because she loved studying, but because going home too early meant facing worry and noise she could not fix. Teachers told her she was smart, but realistic advice always followed, suggesting she aim lower, choose something safe, something small. When Hannah talked about building her own business one day, about creating a life where her mother could finally rest, the reactions were polite smiles or open disbelief. People told her that success came from money, connections, or luck, and she had none of those. By the time she graduated high school, she carried not just a diploma, but a heavy list of reasons why she supposedly would fail. College was supposed to be her escape, but it became another battlefield. She attended a community college in Cincinnati, commuting long hours and working nights at a grocery store to cover tuition. Sleep became optional, exhaustion constant. There were nights when she cried quietly in her car, gripping the steering wheel, wondering if everyone else was right. Bills stacked up faster than grades, and the pressure to quit grew louder with every setback. Friends dropped out of her life when she could not afford to go out, and relatives hinted that she was wasting time chasing something unrealistic. What kept her moving was not confidence, but stubborn hope. Hannah had discovered graphic design almost by accident, teaching herself through free videos late at night on a battered laptop. She fell in love with the way ideas could turn into visuals, how creativity could tell stories without words. It felt like something she could own, something no one could take from her. Still, when she told people she wanted to freelance, they reminded her of her age, her lack of experience, and the crowded market. At 20, she was told she was too young to be taken seriously. At 21, she was told she should get a real job instead of dreaming. Her first attempts were painful. Clients ignored her emails, payments were late or non-existent, and rejection became routine. She designed logos for next to nothing just to build a portfolio, sacrificing time she should have spent resting. There were weeks when she survived on instant noodles and determination alone. Her mother worried quietly, afraid that Hannah was pushing herself toward disappointment. The fear of becoming another story of wasted potential haunted Hannah every single day. Then came the moment that nearly broke her. A client she had trusted disappeared without paying after weeks of work, leaving her account empty and rent overdue. Sitting on the floor of her apartment, surrounded by unpaid notices, Hannah seriously considered quitting. She felt foolish for believing she could change her circumstances so quickly, for thinking that talent and effort were enough. The impossible suddenly felt exactly that. But in that same moment, something shifted. Instead of giving up, she decided to change how she fought. Hannah began treating her dream like a business, not a wish. She studied marketing, branding, and communication with the same intensity she once reserved for survival. She reached out to small local businesses across Ohio, offering honest value instead of desperate discounts. She learned how to present herself with confidence even when she felt none. Slowly, responses came back. One cafe owner in Cleveland took a chance on her, then recommended her to another. A nonprofit in Toledo asked her to redesign their materials, giving her exposure she could never have bought. The change was not sudden or dramatic. It was quiet, almost invisible at first. A paid invoice here, a thank you email there. But momentum began to build. By 22, Hannah was earning more from her design work than she ever had from hourly jobs. She moved into a small apartment she could finally afford without panic, decorating it with second-hand furniture and pride she had earned inch by inch. Her mother cried the first time Hannah paid a bill for her, not out of shame, but relief. The people who once doubted her started to notice. Some offered praise, others asked for advice, as if they had always believed in her. Hannah did not hold grudges. She understood now that doubt often came from fear, and fear was something she knew well. What mattered was that she had built something real, something stable, from nothing but effort and refusal to quit. At 22, Hannah Mercer officially registered her design studio, sitting alone at her kitchen table with paperwork spread out and tears in her eyes. It was not a mansion or a luxury car, but it was freedom. It was proof that background did not define destiny, and that impossibility was often just a word used by those who gave up too soon. She had built a life where her work mattered, her time was hers, and her future felt open instead of frightening. If this story is touching your heart right now, if it reminds you of your own quiet struggles or delayed dreams, please take a moment to like, share, and comment on this video. Your engagement tells us that stories like this matter and helps them reach others who feel alone. Before this story ends, we have a special request for you. Please comment the words "I still believe" if Hannah's journey reminded you not to give up, even when the odds feel stacked against you. Hannah's life did not become perfect overnight. Challenges still came, doubts still whispered, and fear still visited from time to time. But the difference was that she no longer listened. She had learned that belief was not loud or dramatic, but steady and persistent. At just 22, she had built the life they said was impossible, and in doing so, she became living proof that the future belongs to those brave enough to keep going when no one else is clapping.